Let's go ahead and continue then. So the information I'm giving is actually for a novel. With a short story, you won't need to know nearly as much information to write a short story. A short story will definitely have a desire line. That is, it'll have a plot. These are the events that happen to get the character to his goal. And the desire gets in there. And it'll have a theme. A good short story will have a theme of some sort, or at least a moral lesson. It'll either have a theme or it'll have a moral lesson, or maybe even both. It'll have conflict, obviously, the things that prevent the character from reaching his goal or make it difficult for the character to reach his goal, and that's why the conflict makes this desire line go up. The harder the conflict, the more conflict piled on, the harder it gets for the character, the more this line goes up, which means the more tension. And so you want that tension to build up, especially towards the end, towards the climax, and this will keep the reader reading. So that's what a short story will have, but a novel will have a lot more. So you should probably write all this down on a notepad or something on your computer, or on a notepad, a physical notepad. So again, I just want to briefly go over the things that we have so far, and then we'll go through the other elements we need to make a good story, a good novel in this case. You have your goal. That's the ending of the story, what the character either gets or doesn't get, or someone else gets. You have the desire. So in this case, it's Jack's desire is to get revenge. So revenge is the driving force of the story. The goal is to kill Bob. Now we already know my ending is he's not going to kill Bob. He's going to have a self-revelation and not do so. So in this case, he will not actually reach his goal, because, well, he will reach the goal, but he will not actually get it. That is, he will not actually kill Bob because he doesn't want to anymore. He's had a new revelation. We have a theme, which, notice the theme stems out of the desire and goal, out of the plot structure itself. And so in this case, the theme is that revenge doesn't cure your depression, it doesn't cure your emotional stress. We have conflict. We haven't gone into what the conflicts are going to be, but we know we're going to need conflict. We're going to need things to muck up the goal, and we'll go more into that. We know we have weaknesses for the main character. In this case, he has two weaknesses: drug addiction and anger issues, or which makes him abusive. So you can say his weakness to is anger if you want. We have our main character, obviously, which is, in this case, Jack. Alright, so what are the other elements that we need in order to make a good story? In order to write a good novel, we need other elements. One of the things is going to be the moral lesson. And the moral lesson is going to come out of how your main character deals with his weaknesses. I can have many different moral lessons depending on how I decide on the ending of my story. But it's pretty clear what the moral lesson is going to be within this story. He's going to overcome his anger issues, his abuse. He's going to overcome his drug addiction. I can make him not overcome his drug addiction, but only overcome his anger issues if I wanted to. But he's going to overcome both. He's going to decide I don't need to do drugs anymore, and he's going to decide I'm not going to be angry anymore. And so the moral lesson is that drug addiction leads to abusive behavior. Leads to anger issues, and anger issues leads to abuse, because when you're angry, you abuse people. You call them names. You say things you don't mean. And so the moral lesson is don't do drugs, and you can control your anger better. Another one might be that he learns to control his anger, and therefore the moral lesson is control your anger, and you won't be an abusive person. Either way, the moral lesson then is don't hurt people. Don't call people names. Okay, so other elements that we're going to need, or another element we're going to need is an opponent. In this case, one of the opponents is Bob. I should probably write opponent, huh? Actually, I'm going to pause and do it to save time. Okay, so we have our opponent. In this case, will be opponent Bob. At least that's opponent number one so far. I decided, though, I want to make the plot a little bit deeper. I want to add some depth to my plot. And so I'm going to send Jack off on a goose chase. And his desire is not going to change. His goal is not going to change. His goal is still to get revenge on the rapist of his sister. But he's going to be thrown off, and he's going to have a second opponent. And this opponent, again, I should have pushed pause. Oh well. Will be opponent Charlie. This is going to be the first person that he thinks is actually the rapist. And so he's going to go and track down Charlie. And actually, a similar thing was done in in a revenge story, at least, The Godfather. the main character goes to get revenge, and he's he needs to get revenge on more than one person, and he's kind of sidetracked a little bit. Anyway, so first Jack is going to be misled, and he's going to think Charlie's the rapist. He's going to find Charlie, maybe even kills Charlie, and that's what leads him to a self-revelation that killing Bob won't change nothing. Is that he remembers killing Charlie, and it didn't make him feel better when he found out, let's say he kills Charlie, we think the story's over, but then we find out he's wrong and he killed the wrong person, and he realizes, I don't know if I really felt better, but maybe it needs time. And so towards the end of the story, when he goes to kill Bob, he remembers killing Charlie, remembers it didn't help anything, and he has a self-revelation. And it's going to be, I'm going to have to really foreshadow that. So knowing my end goal really helps me create the conflicts, helps me write, because each scene I write needs to strengthen the end. The end is the someone once said, I can't remember who, and I know it seems like I'm fragmented here, but I want to say this really quick. The end of a story is so important that one writer said, and I can't remember who said this, I saw it in a movie, but I think it's so true. For me, it's true at least. The ending makes or breaks a story. You can have a very weak story, a boring, slow, weak story, but if you wow them in the end, they will love your story. And a good example is Sixth Sense. Sixth Sense was an okay story, but without that ending, it wouldn't have been the story it was. It would have been, it's an okay story, because the whole story was kind of slow, was okay, but the ending was so damn good that, for me at least, I love The Sixth Sense because of the ending. Okay, so your ending is very important. Every scene that I construct is to strengthen my theme, it's to strengthen my character's weaknesses and show his change at the end. It's to really impact the end of the story, to make the ending as most impactful as I can. I want the readers to go, wow, he didn't kill Bob. And I want them to really feel that. I want them to be so emotionally moved by the ending. And if I don't know the ending, then I'm going to have to rewrite my whole darn story again. So you just save yourself a lot of time if you know the ending, and now I'm constructing each scene to make sure this happens. So knowing all these elements before I start writing my novel is going to help me write the novel the first time much better. It'll make the rewriting a lot easier. Okay, so I'm going to foreshadow. So another thing I need in a story is foreshadowing. And I'm already starting to think of what my foreshadowing for Jack will be. I need to make some scenes that show that Jack can change, that show that Jack can have this revelation. And I need that revelation to make sense. It can't be artificial. It can't just be like, ooh, I had a revelation. It needs to make sense that certain things in his life led to that revelation. And one of them will be killing Charlie, and that he didn't get immediate satisfaction from it. He didn't feel better. Okay, so another thing we're going to need is foreshadowing. I'm going to put foreshadowing down here. So you might want to write foreshadowing somewhere. That's another element you're going to need. And this is something you're going to do throughout your story. You're going to construct scenes that foreshadow certain things that will happen at the end. And in this case, I really need to strengthen Jack's decision not to kill Bob, because he realizes it won't make him happy. It's not going to give him his need. And that's another thing we need, is the character needs a need. And the need is actually going to drive the desire. And need and weaknesses are very linked, because need usually leads to, I'll put it here, the need usually leads to the weaknesses. And I should probably go ahead and write what Jack's need is going to be. Alright, I tend to, kind of be verbose, but I think going through many different examples and explaining the things the way I'm explaining it really helps understand all this stuff. So, the need, in this case, for Jack, is justice and peace. He wants justice served against the rapist, or the person that raped his sister, and he needs peace. He needs to feel at peace with it. He needs, because right now, notice his need leads to his weakness, and that's good. You want that. So he needs peace because he's not at peace, because he's depressed, because he feels horrible about it, because he can't deal with it, he can't come to grips with it. It leads to drug addiction, which leads to his abusive behavior. So notice everything's linked together, and that's good. You want all that to be linked together, one leading to the other. And that peace, that need of justice, leads to his desire, which is to get revenge, which leads to the end goal. So that drives the whole story, and that's what you want. Alright, moving on to the next part.